Giving a quick update on the All-Star game and the new players that are going to be in the game since Julius Randle and Joel Embiid have succumbed to injury. So All-Star game is just around the corner. Joel Embiid looks like he's going to be sidelined for the rest of the season. As you all know, he has for 4 weeks, for at least 4 weeks. As you all know, he is suffering a torn meniscus, and it'll take time to update on the status with Embiid because I didn't touch on it. I'll take time updating because I didn't really touch on him that much in the last podcast. So basically, his treatment is going to sideline him for at least 4 weeks. But knowing Joel Embiid and the history of his injuries, I actually don't think he is going to be sidelined for just 4 weeks, and it's going to be even longer of a time frame. I don't understand why Philly is trying to push this Joel Embiid. I don't understand why they're trying to push him to become healthy for the playoffs. It makes no sense to rush Embiid from an injury this severe to play in the postseason, especially in this postseason. If the Sixers had a chance, a legitimate shot of making it far and making noise with Embiid, then I would see a reason as to why they should push Joel Embiid forward and try to get him ready for the postseason. But personally, I think he should be deactivated for the entire season as of right now, because with how top-heavy the Eastern Conference has proven to be, and teams such as the Boston Celtics, Cleveland Cavaliers, and the Knicks on the come-up and on the rise, making it a lot more difficult to get past in the Western Conference, I don't think now is a good time for the Sixers to try and play Embiid. Embiid has been injured in every single postseason that he's ever had to play in that wasn't in the bubble, and that I don't even really count that because he only had to play 4 games in that span. So forcing him to come back from an injury so severe when there's no guarantee that the Sixers will even make it far in the playoffs is just a really bad move, in my opinion, and it could really hurt Joel Embiid for the next season coming up as well. But save him for next season, because as of right now, it doesn't look like Philly is going to even be in the playoff spot with how they've been playing. I've been incredibly wrong with my take on the possibility that if they could respond well with Joel Embiid out, given how good the bench and the rotations were and the rest of the players were playing. However, after a few games and after them losing to a bunch of teams that they should definitely be better than, I don't really think they can make it far without Joel Embiid. So they need to figure out a plan for next year and save Embiid for next year. I feel like that is the best bet. And as of right now, he's not even eligible to win the MVP. So what's the point in bringing him back now? But that's just me. As for the other injured player, Julius Randle, well, the Knicks will be just fine. They've shown that they're just fine. And also, in the game that happened recently, Jalen Brunson went down with an ankle injury, so there might be another change in the All-Star lineup that is going to be coming up. But depending on how severe Jalen Brunson's injury actually is. But as for the Knicks as a whole, they have a fantastic team right now. They're playing with confidence, completely different direction than what Philly should be looking at, because the Knicks, they need to try and win now. Now is their time. And I don't think they should slow down, because they definitely have shown that they have the pieces and enough heart, see what I did there, to try and compete and to actually win. So with these 2 players gone, that means that 2 spots on the All-Star roster have opened up for other players to take. And those 2 spots go to Trae Young and Scotty Barnes. You guys know how I feel about Scotty Barnes. He's a great player, great for fantasy, great on my fantasy team. And I ended up being right again with the picks that I thought should be All-Stars. And now they eventually end up being All-Stars. So yay. I was right again. The new I knew that Scotty Barnes deserved to be in the All-Star game, and so did Trae Young. It was only a matter of time before the NBA announced it officially, given the recent injuries. You already know how I feel about Trae Young. He's a baller. He deserves to be in the All-Star game. He's been proving that he deserves to be in the All-Star game with his performance recently, constantly dropping 25-plus points and getting 10-plus assists as well. You guys know Trae Young. He is an incredible playmaker, incredible point guard, one of the best point guards in the East. Definitely deserved the starting spot, in my opinion, over Dame with how he's been playing and how the production has been on the offensive side of the ball. And right now, he's finally getting the respect that he deserves and being in the All-Star game. He's not the starter, which is unfortunate, but still, being recognized and being in the All-Star game and in that rotation is an achievement in of itself. And the same with Scotty Barnes. Congrats to both of them for making the All-Star team and all of that. But even with the people with the media pushing the narrative that Trae Young should be in the All-Star game and Scotty Barnes should be in the All-Star game, there's obviously some people who are still not happy with the results that they got. Jarrett Allen plays the center position on the Cavs and is putting up 15 and 10 averages and is second place in the Eastern Conference right now with Cleveland. And many people say that Jarrett Allen was one of the biggest All-Star snubs. So I guess many people figured that since Joel was going to be out, the replacement for Joel was going to be a center, given how the only other center on the rotation for the East is Bam Adebayo. So the East really needs a center, and that replacement would, if Jarrett Allen was going to be replaced, that replacement would help for, that would match the positions of the players that are getting replaced. So Joel is being the center, so he would get replaced by a center, and Julius Randle being a forward, he would get replaced by a forward. Here's why I don't think that necessarily matters. We live in an era of positionless basketball now. So when you get right down to it, the NBA doesn't necessarily have core positions anymore like how other sports would have. Like, they have positions, but they're more so to group players in height rather than they are to assign players roles. So, like, I'll just give an example to other sports. So in football, when you have a wide receiver, the wide receiver is assigned to do a certain job. If you have a running back, that running back is assigned to do a certain job. If you have a quarterback, the quarterback is assigned to do a certain job. But now, with basketball, if you have a point guard, the point guard can decide, okay, I'm just going to spot up, I'm going to do this, I'm going to run a pick and roll. If you have a power forward, the power forward can decide, all right, I'm going to isolate here on the wing, and I'm going to make a play for him, for her, for him, for anyone. I said her, I can't believe I said her, that's my bad. And for the center position, the same thing applies with Nikola Jokic. Like, I can get in the post, I can make a play for him, I can make, he can run over to the back, I can make a play for him, or I could set a screen for the guard so that way he can create a good shot for either myself or my team. It's like, it's very, very positionless now, and there's not necessarily an assigned role that you get based on your position. It's not guaranteed. So I'll explain that a little bit more. The NBA and the teams, they've sort of divided the players into like 2 or 3 jobs. You have your ball handler, which is usually your point guard, your screener, which is usually the biggest guy on the court, your center, as well as your spot-ups. So the point guard doesn't necessarily have to bring the ball up all the time, because there is a chance that someone at either the 2, the 3, or the 4 could bring the ball up as well. A perfect example of this is LeBron James. Easily one of the players that everyone can definitely understand and definitely like get a better idea. So LeBron, when he was on Cleveland, had Kyrie as point guard. So having Kyrie at point guard, you usually think that like, oh, Kyrie is going to bring the ball up. That's not necessarily the case. I mean, he would bring the ball up, but he didn't necessarily do it as much as LeBron James. Why? Because a lot of these players now, when the era that we're in, they are competent enough to make the plays themselves and to make plays for the other team, similar to how Kyrie can make plays for his team. Like, we all aren't going to deny LeBron's playmaking ability. But with this in mind, this makes the game a lot easier to manage for Kyrie and for other point guards, since they don't have to worry about having the ball all the time and bringing it up all the time. LeBron, when he was playing with Kyrie, was running point and always allowed Kyrie to give a breather. It allowed Kyrie to get a breather on offense, and the only job that Kyrie needed to do while LeBron had the ball was to create space. And then let LeBron operate to see if LeBron can get a bucket. The screener is easy. That's the big center or player, depending on the lineup. If the lineup is small, then it might not even be the big center that is setting the screen. But the screener role is definitely easier because you're just setting the screen and you're helping the guard create the space, and you're rolling or you're popping out to get an open shot for your point guard, or small forward, or whoever it is. But just to recap, the two main positions, point guard and center, while the other players are out there creating space. This is why you see so many teams run isolation and pick and roll, and why everybody else on the team is just standing. Because they're not just standing there doing nothing, they're creating space. This makes the game easier to manage. The ball remains in the hands of your best decision makers, who can man double coverage and make easier looks for the others. So, with all that in mind, with how positionless the league has become, I think it's come a time where we have to put positions aside and just look at a player based on talent and production rather than positions when deciding who should be in the All-Star reserve team, just in case some of these players get injured. There's way too much talent in this league right now, and every position, there's way too much talent in this league to just pick by position alone. So it should be decided by raw talent, and not to mention it should also be decided I don't know. Position should not be taken into account in this whatsoever. And that's sort of the only argument that Jarrett Allen essentially has for being in the All-Star game. Because the only other argument I could see would be him being in the second seed of the East right now. And while I do think winning deserves some recognition, he isn't necessarily the main player providing on the offensive end. That's Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell is the main reason why the Cavs are where they are right now. His offensive production and his leadership is driving them to win games. Not to mention, the rest of the team is definitely helping as well. But Jarrett Allen has a major role being a rim protector and being, the pick and roller. But it's not like he's doing it at an insane production, at an insane level of production, as Trae Young is running the offense on his team. Donovan is the one that definitely deserves that All-Star spot, which he has already. But there are too many people who are talented to be in the All-Star game, and it shouldn't be decided based on just record alone, because that's unfair to people who don't have a good team. And then when we get put in situations where we think players are just going to get snubbed because of their team record, it's just not fair. So the All-Star game right now, it's going exactly as planned. There is one segment about the All-Star break that I haven't covered yet, which will be the dunk contest. I will cover that a little bit later. But we're going to see how the lineup... I have a feeling the lineup is going to change once again, given the fact that Jalen Brunson just went down with an ankle injury. Hopefully, I am praying that it is not a severe injury, and maybe it'll hopefully just sideline him for the All-Star game. Just for the All-Star game. I just hope that he's not hurt, because if he's hurt, New York is going to have a serious problem. But with that in mind, if he's not available for the All-Star game, that opens up a spot for Jarrett Allen. So maybe everybody is going to get what they want in the end. But with that in mind, we are out of time with this segment, so I'm going to go... After the short break, I'm going to talk about the next segment, where we talk about Kyrie's return to Brooklyn and some interesting things he said about in his post-game interview. So I will be right back after this short break.